saxophone, and as you're a beginner, you're going to need to know the basics on how to put your saxophone together, how to assemble it correctly, and maintain it. So the first thing you want to do is open your saxophone case so that the handle of the saxophone case is pointed down. It's on the bottom part, because if you open it up the wrong way, everything will fall out and it won't be exactly in its compartment the way it should be. I recommend putting your saxophone case directly on the floor to start, or you can do what I've done here and put it on a very safe chair. We're going to start by looking in your case to make sure that we have all the parts that you're going to need. So the first part is, of course, the body of the saxophone. And on top of the body of the sax, you're going to see a small black top that will be to protect it, and some of you will have a saxophone cleaner actually in the top that we'll need to remove before we assemble it. The other part to your saxes that you should have in your case is a neck strap like this, possibly a cleaning cloth like this, cork grease, which is a small tube that looks like a chapstick, and the neck and the saxophone mouthpiece. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to put this together and assemble it the correct way. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take out your clarinet mouthpiece. Possibly on the mouthpiece or in the case itself, you're going to find a reed. And the reed might be in a plastic case, or it might be directly on your mouthpiece. The first thing we need to do is, while you're assembling your instrument, I want you to have it in your mouths, because in order to make any sound on the sax, this has to be very wet. So take the reed, put it in your mouth. Pretend it's the best tasting lollipop you've ever had. Grape, cherry, your choice, but it must be really wet. I'm going to not leave it in my mouth so you can understand what I'm saying. This is in your mouth, though, while I'm talking to you. This is the saxophone mouthpiece, and on the mouthpiece is the saxophone ligature. This part comes off easily, and if you do leave it on the floor, it's easy to bend and step on, so be careful with it. If you try to put the ligature on the wrong way, it won't fit down properly. If it's on this way, it fits, it's nice and correct, and the screws are right where the opening is for the mouthpiece. We're going to put this mouthpiece on the neck. And the neck of the saxophone is the only part that has this very special cork. So before we can attach it, we need to know that the cork is already cork greased and nice and smooth so that we don't tear the cork. Take your cork grease, turn it up a notch just like you're putting it on your lips, and put it all across your your saxophone neck. You shouldn't see a lot of white, but you can feel it. It should have greased it, and it should be nice and smooth and easy to assemble now. We're going to take your mouthpiece, and we're going to twist it on this cork, and just small twisting motions, and push it down so that there is a small bit of cork right at the end of it. The opening to your mouthpiece needs to be in line with this line on the back of the neck. Mine's not quite there, so we're going to do that. I want you to make sure that your mouthpiece and neck are in line. Press pause if you need to on this video until everybody in the room is ready to go, and then I'll tell you what to do next. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to put the reed on properly. So assuming that the reed is good and wet, we're going to place, there's two parts to the reed, part with the words on it and a number, which is a lot like a shoe size. We'll be changing numbers as we go. And there's a part that's completely smooth and slightly curved at the bottom. We want the flat part of the reed to be on the flat part of the saxophone mouthpiece. So you can line it up directly on and put the ligature on top of it like this, but be very careful, because if you do hit the tip of that reed, it will crack and then it's no good anymore. Not to worry, you can always buy extras, and a good sax player always has 2 or 3 in their case. We're going to bring this down so that the screws are facing you and on right directly on top of the reed. Now the important part is the top of the reed needs to be lined up so there's not too much black showing, and we don't want it over the top so that you can see it. We want it directly at the top with a tiny bit of black showing, just as so. When you have it lined up, you can pinch this and pull this ligature down snugly and take the screws and just give them a nice tighten, a twist or two until they're firm. This can be tricky, and it takes a time or two to practice and get it on right. The reed is the part that's going to vibrate and make the sound. So this part has to be able to move and it has to be wet. This part of the reed needs to be firm in place. So the top part can vibrate like this when we put our air through there. If it's all done correctly, you should be able to see that it's lined up on the front part of your saxophone as well. Now before we put the whole sax together, we're actually going to practice how to make a sound out of the saxophone. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your reed and you're going to lay it on your lower lip so that your lip is actually acting as a cushion, like this. Not all the way in, just laying right on top. We don't want your teeth to touch the reed of the saxophone. It's going to go here, and then we're going to put your two top teeth just part way down on the saxophone mouthpiece, about that far, like that. Close your mouth around the mouthpiece and very gently go whoo. For the saxophone, we want warm air and we want your mouth in the shape of an ooh, a round shape. If you can hear air going through the neck, you've done it correctly. If you push a little more air through it, you'll hear this sound. Give it a try. And if you have that all figured out and you can make a sound, show your teacher and you're ready to move on to put the body onto the neck, and we can actually get started with our fingerings. Well done.